Hey guys, welcome back to the garage and to part 3 of my Survivor series. Today we're going to be taking a look at an AMT 1937 Chevrolet coupe and an AMT 1941 Plymouth coupe. Now these cars I don't really have a whole lot to tell about, maybe as I did on the other previous two videos. I probably have more to tell about this coupe right here because I actually have a tie to this car, a real car that I actually remember. So I'm going to get into that, but I think we're going to cover the 37 Chevrolet first. Now, again, part of my dad's collection. We're winding down. We got these two, and we'll have two more in my next video coming up in part 4. But let's move the Plymouth out of the way for right now. I'm going to move him over to the side here. You can still see him there. And let's just look at the 37 Chevy for right now. I'm going to bring him up in here closer. Again, not a whole lot to tell about this, but number one part I like about this, I love the gasser. I mean, look at that. Got the straight axle under the front there. And this kit actually would have been released originally in 1968. But I don't believe this is an original release kit. I think Dad got this probably sometime thereafter, and it had another release in 73. So, and it was labeled as a new box according to Scalemates. So Dad probably got this one in or around 73, shortly thereafter. You know, it could have been a year or so after. But I always remember this car being around, so I don't know that I remember him building this car, but I know I've just always remembered it being around in his cabinet. So just going to take a look at a couple little things on this one. Got the, which would have been probably like the Lexan hood, see-through hood, you know, popular in drag racing. So I'm going to set that hood down from it and look at this 427. Blown 427. We're missing one of the, somewhere along the line, one of these braces had come up missing somewhere through the years, you know, and who knows, you know how things get, guys. We move them around and whatnot. That just seems to be a thing that happens. But we'll just move them around here. And the one thing that I did notice as I was doing a little bit of research on this car actually was, it had a number of releases on it. And one release in particular was in 1983. And I recognized the box art right away because I built two of these 37 Chevys when I was in high school. So I had the 1983 release, at least the 1983 release box art, we'll put it that way, because it was probably more towards 86, 87, 88, right in that ballpark when I actually built that car. And what Scalemates showed on that version was new. It listed new parts, and I don't know what all the new parts were, but I know what one particular new part was. Now I'm going to turn this up this way and show you the bottom side here. And this one and the other car that I did is pretty much identical underneath. But check this out, guys. Look at that, the old two-piece tires. Kind of like the, not the vinyl or rubber, but the plastic. Two-piece tires, front and back. Okay, you got them ladder bars. They had that nice contrast there with the engine transmission color. Same color on that. And what I'm going to show you now is I'm going to put this guy back down on the table for a sec. I'll set him down. And then I'm going to bring this one in just for a second and show you the difference in the tires. And that's the one, at least the one thing for sure that I saw that was would have been a different part. Now this is one I did in high school. And see, notice the tires. Okay, now you just got your regular slicks, your one-piece slick, and then your one-piece tire up front here. like the rubber vinyl, more like vinyl tires. But I was, like father, like son, had to take after dad. I did it in the orange. I like the way his looks, so that's how mine ended up. But anyway, this is one particular part that I know would have been different in that they actually eliminated the two-piece tires and went with the solid vinyl. So I'll take him back out of the way and bring this other guy up again. But like I said, not a whole lot else to tell about this car. It just, like I said, I always remembered this being around. But this is probably 73, 74, 75 vintage right here. But just a really nice, I always like that gasser look. Get that rake up in the front and makes them really look nice. Again, probably Tester's rattle can on this one would have been sprayed on. And if I remember right, these had separate fenders front and back, I believe. It looks like, yeah, those are separate fenders, I believe. So, again, not a whole lot to tell. Just really cool to look at and just nice to see that a kit this age has survived all this time. And still looks pretty much the way it did when he built it. So I'll put this hood back on. And that's really, guys, all I got to really tell about the 37 Chevy. So if you like the old coupes, the old gassers, this is one for you. So I'm going to put this one back down, and we'll look at the Plymouth now. Now this one, I've got just a little bit more to tell because there's a little story that kind of goes along with this and how this came to be. Nothing spectacular, but I guess to me it's more sentimental than anything because it was Dad's, or is Dad's, I'm sorry. So I'm going to take this hood off right now because it's just really, really loose sitting on there. We'll set the hood down there. And we'll just go around this here real quick. Okay, 41 Plymouth. Had the flathead 6-cylinder. And, you know, just all factory parts. Dad put the factory style wheels and wheel covers on it. Or tires and wheel covers. And then just, and now this one, look here, it's even got an original something on it that fell on it. And I think I know what that was. This actually used to sit on our old Zenith color console TV. Console TVs, remember that? Wow. We're all telling our age when we think about that. But anyway, I think this, it got something spilled on it at that point in time. And I think it was too late before anybody really noticed. So it's kind of still there. And I never bothered, when I got them from Dad here, I never bothered trying to clean it off. So figure we'll just leave it go. So 41 Plymouth coupe. Look at the underside there. You know, pretty basic. And this is, this body is all one piece. The fenders are molded right in with the rest of the body. Now, Dad, most of these kits that I've showed you from my dad's collection, maybe not most of them, but two in particular, the Roadrunner, or the GTX, I'm sorry, and the 70 Challenger, he actually had a car like each one of those, you know, the real deal. Same goes for this car. Only Dad had a 40 Plymouth coupe. And he had that in the real early 70s. Really early 70s. Now this kit, the original release in this one was 1975. And then they had another one, which actually I believe carried the Matchbox name on the box as well. So Dad built this car, I'm sure it was somewhere between 1975 and 1979. And I actually think, if I'm not missing my guess on this one, there was a hardware store just right down the street from us where I was growing up. And they sold model kits. You know, back in the day, I mean, you found model kits, and I even remember this, drugstores, sometimes grocery stores, hardware stores, sold model kits. And this hardware store sold this one, and I think this is the one that I remember walking over to the hardware store with my dad, and he bought this kit, and he bought the can of spray paint with it. And I think I remember watching him paint this car. So that's why I got an extra special connection to this one, because I think I remember seeing part of the construction of this car when he was working on it. Now he bought this kit specifically because he had a 1940 Plymouth coupe. And really the only difference is, the main difference that I can tell is the grill. Okay, the 40 just had slits in here. And this kind of had like an encompassing shell around the whole grill area there. And I think maybe the top of the headlights might be different on the 41 to the 40. So what I'm going to do, I got an extra treat here. And I'm just going to show you this. And I hope the light's not going to interfere with this, but I'm going to bring this in here. There was Dad's 40 Plymouth. That was his real deal. And you'll see here the grill, they're just like slits in there. Instead of where this one, the 41 encompassed that whole area right there. And it looks like to me that top of the headlights are different. But this car actually was an X. It was either in the process of being turned to a gasser, or it actually was an X-gasser. But it had a 327 engine in it. I think it was a 4-speed manual transmission. And I do remember, and now this was the business coupe. So it had no back seat. It just had a panel in the back there that would fold down, and then it went right into the trunk. And a neat story on this one, my brother and I, when we was little, Dad would go out and he'd work on it, do some type of work, and he'd open the trunk on it and one of the side doors, and my brother and I would climb in the trunk and come out the door. We thought that was the coolest thing, that you could go in one end and come out the other there. So we just had a blast, that car. And I do remember this car, and believe it or not, Dad sold this when I was 2, maybe 3 years old, and I actually remember that car. It may have been closer to 3 years old, but however far back it was, I still remember that. It had Mustang bucket seats in it, and I think it had a bad engine in it. So Dad actually ended up selling it to a guy down there. But that, he really liked that car, so he wanted to get him a model of it. So that 41 Plymouth came out. He snatched it up and built him a Plymouth out of it. But it was a Cadillac brown color on there. And I mean, you look at this, they had this thing setting way up. I think the springs were on top of the rear axle. It had a 39 Plymouth straight axle under the front. Traction bars were welded to the frame. So he's like, he said this thing rode like a log wagon. And I can believe that. I mean, it was mainly being built just for, the quarter-mile runs. So as far as any regular road speed or driving on the highway, said it just wasn't a highway car, obviously. But that's just a story behind this 41 Plymouth model. And so that was why this one's kind of extra special to him too. Now, another story that goes along with that Plymouth, I think I said in my last video, Dad actually had a 73 Plymouth Duster with a 340. Well, as fate would have it, my mom was driving it back and forth to work, and she was coming home from work one day, and a chemical truck actually pulled out, into the side of her and just completely totaled the car. She was fine, a little shook up, a couple scrapes, but she was fine. And Dad had said, had he still had the coupe, he would have taken that engine, transmission, and everything, all the whole drivetrain, and put in the coupe, and then put it back down to road, where you could drive it on the road. And but that just never came to be. He had already sold it, and that's the way things go. But anyway, this is from AMT, and just another part of Dad's collection. A couple good old coupes. So like I said, other than that, not a whole lot to tell about these two cars. other than just to show them off and, you know, part of history again, guys. Just model car history, you know, just like the real stuff. So I think with that, we're probably going to wrap this video up. That'll do it for part 3 of the Survivor series. And next time, in the next video, we're going to be looking at a couple classic trucks. I think both of them actually, I would say, are probably were some pretty rare kits. And we got the finished product to show you. So with that, I'm going to wrap this one up for now. And come back next time for the next one, guys. I think you might like those as well. So for now, this is Eric from Eric's Model Garage. Going to back on out now. So you guys have a great day. God bless you, and happy modeling.